Well, tonight the train is coming. My son is going to be our guest. His name is Zeb Chandler. He's a lawyer in entertainment industry. He's done DJ stuff. He's done all kinds of different things, and now he has a his own YouTube channel called Hidden Camping. He was very active in scouting, and great. We have just a great program with him, and I hope you'll enjoy every minute of it, and share it with your friends, and give us a like, and join our our every different one of our things that Elliott has going for us, whether it be Spotify or Apple Podcasts or Instagram or whatever the gram. Great.
We
I,
also love feedback. And we appreciate you joining us for season 2 of Aids to Scouting. Welcome to episode 2.
great. More trains. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Aids to Scouting. This is our first episode of this year, or is it our second episode? But at
Second.
any rate, our second. That's right. And we're glad that you're joining us this evening. We have as our guest Zeb Chandler, who has the last name because he actually is my son. I'm very proud of him. Zeb's an Eagle Scout. He's a lawyer. He practices uh, uh, communications law and entertainment law. He's also been having a program that I think you'll all find interesting. It's called Hidden Camping. And we're going to talk about that and about social media and other things that we can all talk about that will help scouting. That's our basic thing that we're trying to do, of course. But also, we just hope you, whether you're a scout leader, or whoever, that you just simply enjoy being a part of what we're doing. How about it, Zeb? Tell us about your background.
Well, first off, thank you guys for having me, Walker and Elliott. First off, it's a great show. I'm really impressed with the ones y'all have started this past year, the episodes, the guests, the production value. It's really impressed me a lot, so I appreciate being on. That's the first thing I want to say. And as everyone knows, I'm closely related to Walker, the host. And so if you see us acting or talking a little alike, Elliot might say it's in the genes or something like that. But
I've noticed some funny things for the audience.
right. It's but I grew up a scout. I earned many merit badges beyond the amount required for Eagle. I think 48 or something like that, close to 50. And I ended up working at the Boy Scout camp in my region, my council, the Flint River Council in Middle Georgia, Camp Thunder, 2 summers, and that was a great experience. A quick side story that's really funny that neither of you guys know is I was at um, the beach over New Year's, and I was playing basketball with some guys, and I introduced myself. I said, my name's Zeb. He said, I've met one other Zeb. He said his name was Zebulon and he was from Zebulon, Georgia. And I said, that might be me. And he said, I met you at Camp Thunder. And he was a scout. He was a camp counselor the years after I was there. And I counseled with his brother, his older brother. And he said, you came and visited the camp a few times the year after you left, and visited with us. And he said, your name always stuck with me. And I always just remembered you. How can you forget Zebulon from Zebulon?
How can you
So,
forget?
yeah. So I'm from the town of Zebulon, Georgia, in middle Georgia, a small town of about 1,000 people or 1,500 people when I was growing up there, 2,000 now, and had a great childhood in that town, riding bikes all over, going to the local schools through elementary, um, camping nonstop in the woods, doing scouts, Cub Scouts, all those things. Um, and that led to a big love of the outdoors, a love of scoutcraft, woodcraft, um, emergency preparedness, um, everything from life saving to first aid to whitewater rafting to wilderness survival. I taught wilderness survival merit badge at Camp Thunder. That was one of my favorite merit badges that I got to teach.
Oh,
Um,
may I please interrupt on that note?
yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Do you have any standout stories from the overnighter that you have to do in the middle of the week?
Oh yeah, so the um the overnighter you mean at camp?
Yes,
Um
I can. Mhm.
yeah, so um scout camp was a big part of my life, and being a scouter and going to Camp Thunder a lot, living near the camp, and then
Oh,
being an instructor there. And for anybody listening, scout camp is a very valuable experience for young men and now young women. It's like a coming of age story with especially the youngest campers. I was the director of the buckskin program one summer, and buckskin are the first year campers. So they're usually about 12 years old, maybe 13. They're some of the youngest members of each troop. So they're most prone to homesickness, most prone to um, rookie status, most prone to possibly getting bullied or picked on. And a lot of them, when they first got there at the beginning of the week, um, were nervous about camp. And I used to love working with them because I would just say, guys, don't worry about the merit badges. Don't worry about the requirements. Just we stick together. Our group sticks together. We do things together. We look out for each other. We're going to have the best week ever. And you would see homesick city boys. By the end of the week, they were like feral animals that wanted to stay at Camp Thunder for the rest of their lives. And their parents were like, what happened? He was calling, crying on Monday. Now he doesn't want to come home. And so, leading into that overnighter, um, for many campers, the whole process of the week leads up to an overnight trek or a hike or a big adventure, maybe on a Thursday night late in the week. And so the buckskins all do a big hike and camp out on Thursday night that they have to prepare for. They have to make the meals for. They have to carry all the gear for. They have to read the map to get there. Um, and that one was just full of great stories about young kids, um, young boys watching out for each other, having each other's backs, getting revenge on the bullies because we had a stronger, tight knit team,
mhm.
things like that. And then in Wilderness Survival Merit Badge, the adventure was um, a similar trek, but to a different location, and you built a survival shelter to stay in for the night. And so, of
So
course, there were
much fun.
plenty of kids who did not have a shelter by the end of the day and had to sleep in the cold.
Yeah.
And they might have still got the merit badge, might not have, but it was always just a big adventure seeing the forts they concocted because it was a lot of fun. Those were great memories. There's too many to pick one,
Yeah,
um, but
there's
the
so many
young
good
campers
ones.
going across the mountain was great.
Oh, yeah. I can relate directly to that because my first year of staffing at Camp Thunder was,
Hmm.
working in the buckskin area. I
Right.
wasn't area director, of course, but that that first taste, that first year that I was on staff, and that was my job, was to get everybody excited about being in scouts and doing the scout thing.
Yeah.
Pretty intimidating, at 15. It's an
Hmm.
intimidating job for all these 11-year-olds and some even 10-year-olds because they earn the arrow of light and they could cross over early. These That comparison between that age, those 4 years there, that's a big difference. So I felt like I'm a whole adult compared to these little tiny kids, 5th and 6th graders.
Right.
And
If
so
you if you think about it, you do the math. 4 divided by 15, that's like one third. You're like 33-40% older than them,
Mhm,
and we don't really think that when we only hear 3 years difference, but
mhm.
those are very important years of different experience. and it's so good for campers to learn from people who have been in their shoes, who are kind of can relate to them, their same age.
Mhm.
Um, it's neat if a scouter can learn from a 20-year-old or a 30-year-old or an adult, but it's different when it's boys teaching boys, girls teaching girls. We're all in the same boat together kind of feel.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. I, and then so after my buckskin thing, that year, the next year came by and I had to go work in the scout craft area. I think it's called something else, outdoor skills.
Hmm.
But it was scout craft at the time, so it'll still be scout craft forever in my heart. And
Right.
I worked there and I went and I taught the cooking merit badge. Well, as the summer moves along, we tried at that time to have 8 weeks of summer program, all of it, the entire summer, as much as we could.
Hmm.
And but as it goes along, the numbers diminish. You don't Not as many participants are coming in, so the staff has to match the amount of, you know, everyone has to get furloughed basically, slowly, one at a time. And
Right.
throughout that time, you as a merit badge counselor either pick up the merit badges, or if your area director decides that he doesn't want to work there for the rest of the summer, then you go and you be the area director because you're the
Right.
next guy in line to do that. And so that offered me the opportunity to teach the wilderness surviving merit badge. And the few weeks that I got to do it, I think it was only three weeks worth of that merit badge in particular.
Hmm.
But those overnighters, I had a blast as a staff member. And I remember looking back as a camper, that was
Oh yeah.
probably the most memorable thing that I did, was go build a shelter out in the middle of the woods and, toting everything basically in your pockets in a small bag because you don't wanna take a whole you don't wanna be that
Yep.
guy.
By the way, Elliot, I think there seems to be some feedback
Mhm.
that's that I can hear. I don't know if people out there are going to hear it, but a slight buzz. Can you hear it, Zeb?
I hear a
No,
little.
I'm
I
I'm
think
okay.
it might be on Zeb's end. Is it playing out loud through your computer?
It is coming through my I can hear myself and you guys, but
Oh,
it's not playing on a computer. I'm just on the phone right now.
oh,
I
okay.
clicked on the link.
Yeah. Well,
Might be your
that's
headphones,
probably too
Walker,
bad. Are they
but
super loud?
you want to try without the headphones? Is there a buzz?
I
Oh,
don't hear it
recess.
right now.
Okay. Well,
I don't know. Maybe
we
it's
could take
me.
a pause and look at that if y'all want,
No,
Elliot.
that's fine. Let's
Yeah.
keep
But
going. Y'all are doing this is great. I'm just sitting back thinking
hmm
about how what a great thing scouting is, that two guys like you that 46-year-old guy, yesterday was Zep's birthday.
Happy
hmm
And
birthday.
and that's right. And to think so fondly about back on scouting. Of course,
and
I
to
remember.
that
Go ahead,
story,
Zeb.
not to interrupt, but from just 2 weeks ago, running into a guy who I had met very briefly at scout camp, and that obviously I have a unique name or whatever, but something stuck with him. And I was friends with his brother the year before. He showed me a picture, and the guy looked familiar, and I kind of connected them and their family to like being scouters in that region. And he now lives down in Brunswick for the last 15, 20 years on the Georgia coast. And but it was just a small world. The scouts have a lot in common. We all been through the same adventures and ordeals and
The
ups and
scouting world
downs.
is
And
huge, but the world is so small.
right, right. I've
Well,
got.
of course, now we're talking about the world, and I'll just interject here that both Zeb and his younger brother went to world jamborees. And when they were
Mhm.
and I was fortunate enough to go to one in 1963, and I went to the one up in West Virginia in 2019. In fact, this is a shirt that Zeb got off of a Scottish scout uh, at the World Jamboree that was in the Netherlands. And
Yep.
he had a great time, and he had a couple of cousins went with him. And when I went to Greece, my brother went with me, and it was it was great. And you make those contacts all around the world, and you find that we all are brothers and sisters in scouting. All right, now Zeb, I'd like for people to hear about your hidden camping and maybe how that relates to scouting. And one thing I was going to almost ask you to do was to show us a picture of this hammock you've got that has a rigid back, because I never could sleep in a hammock uh,
Right.
because of the slope. But the one you've got looks pretty good.
Well, um, I can get to that hammock and some of my gear and setup, but why don't I give a brief intro to what hidden camping is? Um, I work in entertainment law, and I, for years, had seen clients and people in the industry making money and making a career out of social media, out of being a creator, whether they were musicians or just entertainers or comedians, and they made content, and making content just like this podcast is high value because it works on a one to many basis, right? You record once, many people can watch it, can listen to it. You make a video, it can be watched hundreds, if not thousands of times. And it's a product that is theoretically can continue renewing and have value and not expire. So there's all types of content to make. Um, certain content is more news, trending of the moment. Other content is what might be termed more evergreen. A video from 5 years ago could come on YouTube and you could watch it and like it because it's not time sensitive. It's just someone doing something cool, building a shelter. I always loved these the outdoor boys who is who's a he's a, I believe, a scouter, but he was an attorney who started doing videos on YouTube, and then he started doing outdoor woodcraft and fishing videos. Then he got into more camping and adventure videos, and he moved to Alaska. And the Outdoor Boys is kind of one of the largest YouTube outdoor nature creators out there, and he one of the biggest independent YouTubers in the world. There are others who have more followers and their videos have more views, but they also have built a team or they're a business or cover a lot of subjects or cover more mainstream things. But the Outdoor Boys was a big inspiration for me starting my own nature adventure content. I have a few other channels that I draw inspiration from. Um, and there's particularly a guy that's worth watching, in my opinion, and his channel's called Camping with Steve. And Camping with Steve is he's pretty much like the number one guy in stealth camping. And for all the people listening who don't know what stealth camping is pretty simple. It is camping in um, non-traditional, unconventional places, stealthily, undetected. So you might be a secret camp set up in a public park. Might be I built a fort out of leaves and hid in my yard from everyone for a day and a half. It might be um, camping in a remote valley. Could be camping on an interstate on ramp. Could be many, many things, right? It's just not a traditional campsite, traditional setup, and really, um, entertainment. The great thing about entertainment, and I heard this once. I'm drafting this off of a music CEO. He said, it is what you make it." There is no formula for what is entertainment. There is no right and wrong. There is just what you do, and if people watch it and like it, great. Or if you enjoy producing it, great. You're entertaining yourself, or whatever it might be. But it is truly the cutting edge of creative creation is making entertainment videos, music, etc. Um, and so I saw these people doing it. I had this idea. I wanted to start my own content. Um, I had been doing law videos, and on my Instagram, I started doing like entertainment law tips of the day and social media tips. So I really have like studied social media and entertainment for going on 15 years. I've seen a lot of endorsement deals, record deals, marketing deals, you name it, management deals.
Where you were
So
also a DJ.
yep, yep. So
Yeah.
I've been in the entertainment business even before law. My whole resume is a whole nother story. We could go into that after I tell you about hidden camping. How I got started and worked in Los Angeles and worked as a DJ for many years. But hidden camping is this stealth camping channel, and I am trying to embrace adventure. I'm trying to aim the outdoor content to a slightly wider audience than most YouTube survival adventure channels do. I have children. I'm trying to aim it a little more, make it a little funnier, make it a little more action packed. I'm leaning into a few of the kind of Mr. Beast type things, challenges, um, mishaps. No, I don't ever try to plan a mishap or like call the cops on myself or, you know, put my cousin in a Bigfoot outfit and have him stalk into the site. Um, but I
These are great ideas, though.
right, right.
Down. Somebody write that down, please.
Right, right, and it is very tempting sometimes because you're out there, you're camping, and it's boring, right, or a little bit boring. Like there's nothing
Yeah.
really happening.
There's
Um,
not a TV to watch. There's not video games to play.
right. Your
You
cell
have to
phone
just deal with
battery's
yourself.
low, so you
Yeah,
can't scroll.
right.
But so within my channel, I currently, and this goes for all channels, all let's say, um, more serious YouTube channels. What you do is you kind of experiment for a while, but then you come across formats, right, that work for you. And the two formats that work for me currently are solo one-nighters, stealth missions, and then um 48-hour adventures. Like truly, those aren't really me hiding or stealth. That's just me deep exploring somewhere.
Mhm,
And I call that 48 hours lost.
mhm,
So I've only done one of those currently, which was 48 hours lost in the Carolina backwaters,
mhm,
um, and the Low Country of South Carolina, and that was a lot of fun. I went and drove and visited a friend of mine who has a deep water dock,
mhm.
and I kayaked to a uninhabited island. And then the second day, I got back to his dock and I drove way deep into what's called the Ace Basin, and the ACE stands for the Ashipu, the Cohumbia, and the Edisto River. I might be mispronouncing the Cohumbia, but those form one of the largest, like undeveloped or protected uh, estuary ecosystems in the world, if not the whole East Coast of the United States. And so it goes from saltwater marshes to freshwater marshes. So the first day and night, the island I was on had lots of evidence of wild boar, and I heard lots of noises. There were like crazy things moving around in the bushes. So it was naturally kind of thrilling and chilling and scary. And then the second night, I went deep into the marsh, the freshwater parts, and I came across a lot of gators. I didn't get like clear face to face confrontations, but I saw tons of gator beds and lots of movement in the water around me on a couple of occasions.
You
So
know,
it was very tense too.
for our people in other countries, he means alligators,
Right,
which is
right,
the American version of a crocodile.
right, right.
We've got some pretty big ones here, and they are not to be trusted.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Zeb.
Well, those are my two formats. That was a really cool adventure, 48 hours lost. And it got a real good response from everyone who watched it. And it's also longer episodes. It's kind of more of like a true documentary, whereas my other ones are like smaller. My solo missions are more like 15 to 20, 25 minutes, whereas this was two parts. Each was 30 minutes. It's more in depth, more buy-in, more bingeable too, because you watch one and you want to watch the other. So there, if we get into like a little bit of what YouTube's all about, not all views are equal, right? You get a short and you might get 50,000 views on a short, but really a short's only 5 seconds of someone watching, right? So 50,000 times 5 seconds, add that up to total watch time, and you have a long format video that's 30 or 40 minutes, and people watch 80% of that. So let's say they watch 22 minutes of a 30-minute video. Well, that one view is worth like 700 views of a short. You see what I'm saying?
Mhm.
So there's this whole dynamic about YouTube and everything, and I do study the mechanics of it a lot. But what I'm the mission for my channel, and I promise I'll stop ranting. But I love the subject.
Well, I've got several questions too, so
Oh
keep
yeah,
going. You
yeah.
might already answer them.
Well, no, that I'll finish with this, and then love to talk about any questions or thoughts you have about, because I know you've watched a few of mine. I've listened to a
Mhm,
few of the podcasts, but there's a couple of concepts, right? You can move to the audience, or you can have the audience move to you, right? And if you go move to the audience and try to entertain them, then you fall into this trap of trying to please everyone, trying to be funnier than you were the last time, like chasing trends, right? Um, and it's a high likelihood of like a loss of authenticity. So I'm being um, really clear about my ambition to not do that, to stay authentic, to be myself, and I can't get caught up in the number of views I get, because really I'm just trying to do something I love, which is build a library of cool camping adventures.
mhm.
And if an audience forms around that, great. And if an audience doesn't, I'm still going to have had like 40 or 50 more cool adventures, you
Yeah,
know?
yeah.
And if I inspire just my own kids or just a few other kids, I will have been successful. And so my goal is to just get to the 30 to 50 episodes within the next year or two. And then that, because the library has an effect, you produce a new episode, people can go back and watch the others. But that's kind of the in a nutshell what I'm doing with Hidden Camping. It's an outdoor adventure channel, um, and I've filmed and published 9 episodes now.
Okay, so before we started the show, you did mention that you're trying to keep the social media at the moment, keeping the social media that's for Zeb Chandler separate from the hidden camping. Um, and you also mentioned that you had several hundred videos about law and entertainment things, right?
Right.
Um, so obviously, this type of work is not new to you. You've been in the entertainment industry.
Hmm.
When it comes particularly to the YouTube and making the videos, publishing them, making the shorts, you said something about TikTok. You have a TikTok? I did not know about that.
I do. I haven't published any videos on it. It's just
Oh,
really to go follow people and like and grow my little friends list on there. And to preserve the handle for
so
hidden camping. So I have a hidden camping TikTok,
mhm.
but I haven't really begun using it yet.
Yeah, we actually for Aids to Scouting just jumped over that hurdle about 2 weeks ago, and so
Nice.
it's pretty fresh. It's pretty fresh in the use of it and moving it around is it's a bit different.
Hmm.
There's only, I think, 10 or 11 videos on there so far, and they perform differently, and I haven't found the pattern yet for
Yeah.
TikTok, but I'll get there. But what I
Hmm.
wanted to ask about was throughout the process of the 9 videos that you've had published so far, what's the easiest part of the process for you? Because you're doing hard things, you're going out in odd places, you're doing stressful situations, and then you're coming back, you're editing, you're worrying about all the styles of presentation, like the Mr. Beast style or more outdoor boys. Uh,
Hmm.
which aspect, and then that's the editing, and then there's the the getting it out there and cutting it all up and trying to get people to watch it. Which is the easiest part and which is the hardest part?
Really good question. Um, I would say, you know, coming up with the ideas is pretty easy,
Mhm,
right? But then you only have so many days you can go out and camp if you have work, if you have family, if you have obligations. So then you have to sort through the ideas. That gets a little harder
mhm,
and pick the ones that are, I got some crazy great ideas, but they would take months of prep to do, right? and I want to do those, but then I'd basically be like working my butt off to produce one video, right? So the coming up with ideas is pretty easy, and fun, obviously. Like that's part of why I'm doing this, because if it's naturally fun to think about the channel, then
Mhm.
I'm probably onto something, right?
Right.
If it's naturally fun, if I can come up with ideas by the dozens, camping on a billboard, I survived a thunderstorm, you know what I mean? I
Please be careful about camping on a billboard.
right, right. Or I'm not gonna go get on a climb on a billboard, maybe under a
Yeah,
billboard or something, right?
Right.
put your hammock up on one of
On
those
the
high tension lines that has
Right, right.
a million volts going through it.
I was thinking, what if I built a tree house 100 feet in the air, or something like that? That'd be fun, right? And
I think a real fun, and exciting and dangerous one would do, like, a really busy parking garage in Atlanta.
yeah, yeah. I've been I've got one in the works that's been delayed a few times, but I've got a car camping episode I want to do.
That'd be
That's
cool.
going to be very fun when I pull it off. But and I'm probably going to go um, to a major sporting event and
Mhm.
then go car camp in the on the roof of a parking deck in downtown Atlanta, so I get the
That's
skyrise and the sunrise and the lights.
You've already
Uh,
ran down this road, I see.
right. I mean, you already these are like not that's a great idea, but I've
And
come up
that
with so many that
I
maybe I'm
remember
already on that one too. But it's yeah, that's so much fun. It's like just to be able to riff with my friends. I had a friend of mine who helped me on a video. He's helping me on another um project video that I can tell y'all a little bit about. But he had a great idea, and he didn't know what to call it. But he said, "What if you did a video?" Because again, formats. I have two formats currently, and then I have a third format that I'm working on, but I'm not going to release that into the stream of published videos until I have a larger library built of these two formats, because these two formats work. It's not that they're going lots of views and they're not going ballistic, but they're climbing and they're building an audience. And then when I get there, I will have enough trust and depth with my audience that I can then go a little different and do a
Mhm.
challenge videos, is what I call the third format that I'm going to introduce. And those take a little more time, and that'll be more like I built something and tested it, or I challenged myself to do X, or something. So those might be like more one of those I'll tell you all about is I'm going to use trail cams and night vision to track some predators, right? I'm going to go post out and camp near a burrow and really spend some time watching some like predator trails. And I
Mhm.
want to do a video called like I tracked 3 predators for 3 days. And then it could be called like who hunted who, like did I get caught, in a wolf pack or coyotes or wild boars, so that'll be fun. Um, and that's more of a challenge video. It doesn't really fit with the 48 hours lost. Doesn't really fit with the solo. Um, but
But it is those
going
heart
back to that
pumping
hardest
things.
part,
Yeah.
I would say the editing was very hard in the beginning,
Mhm.
and um, you overthink it. It's never perfect, right? You go show your wife. She says, this and this and this. And then you show your kid, no, it's three other things. And you fix them. And then, no one's going to have a perfect video. Your friends think this is the best part.
Yeah.
But I have had a lot of, generally speaking, like 80 to 90% all feedback's positive. And I've got thick skin. So I can handle the occasional person disagreeing or not liking a certain part.
Yeah. I felt the same way when I started to, I was doing some music videos for a friend,
Mhm. Yeah.
and I cut it together, and I watched it, and I didn't like it, but some people were saying, "Oh, that looks great. That's a cinema," and I'm like, "No, no, no, no," and then I recut it, and I was like, I think this is gonna be it," and they're like, "Oh, this is not the way it's," and I'm like, "Well, you know what? At this point, I'm satisfied. I like it,
Yep.
and like you were saying earlier, you make the content, and the audience will build itself around it if there's an audience for it, and I grew up with the internet. Y'all are both a little bit older than I am, and
I'm
I've
a lot
always
older.
and I've I've always had pretty much unbridled access to the internet, and I'll say that there's nothing you like you were saying, you can't put a dial on what's entertaining to
Right.
some and you could do anything and, like, sometimes my youngest daughter watches these videos of these people cutting open squishy things and
Hmm.
putting it in a bowl and mixing it up and talking about how it feels, and then next video, 16 minutes worth of that.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
And I'm like, "Well, there's something for everyone, I suppose."
Hmm. I saw a short the other day. It was like a minute long,
Mhm.
and it was like dogs spa time, and they laid two dogs on their back face up, and then they're combing their fur, and you hear the dog moaning, and they brought out squishy toys, and it was ASMR stuff. It was I was like, why did I watch that? And then it had like 38 million views, and I was like, what?
You really can't put a button on it, you
Right, right.
and
And
so just do what you
Well,
do and continue to do it.
well,
yeah.
just for the sake of aids to scouting,
Yeah.
I'd like Zeb to maybe say, if you really want to promote scouting and help it around the world, maybe you should move to a different format, or or this is a good format. I don't know. Or if you have any suggestions, that we'd be glad to listen to you
Oh,
because
for
we've
you guys
obviously
content,
studied.
right?
Yeah, for
On
what we
shorts.
do.
Well,
Yeah.
um, one premise that I heard, I watch there's a lot of good, um, there's a million people who like help young new creators, right? I make a channel that helps small YouTubers, helps TikTokers, whatever. And not all those videos and gurus are good, but you listen to some of the bigger, there's a podcast, for example, called Colin and Samir, and they interview creators about YouTube, mostly about YouTube, but other platforms as well. And one thing that a creator, a really successful creator that they were talking to said, he said, you hide the vegetables, right? And so when you're feeding a kid and you want them to eat broccoli, you mix it into macaroni and cheese, right? And then the kid doesn't know they ate the broccoli because they enjoyed the mac and cheese. So in mine, I'm trying to mix the education component, the knot tying, the fire skills, the safety skills, the preparedness. I'm trying to mix that into entertainment. So because if you showed someone a video and said, "Here's 5 knots that are helpful with camping," they may watch it. That video might get 1,000, 2,000 views, 5,000 views. But if you make a video and say, I was hanging from a cliff and barely escaped, and that's the title of the video, but they just happened to learn how to tie a bow line, that bow line will stick with them better because they saw it applied, they were entertained in the moment with the tension. And so that hiding the vegetables really resonated with me on the educational element of my content. So I would say, I don't think you guys need to go crazy with making it entertaining first, with education second. But there might be some, just like if you for example found a way to interview. I'm spitballing ideas, right? You go talk to a scout randomly over Zoom, and you say, you know, what's your best joke or what's your funniest camp story, right? They might tell you something fun, and then after that you mention something educational or something scouting related, or I don't know, you know what I mean? Like it's just tying the joke to the other part. But I'd have to think on it more about any advice I have for TikTok or anything like that. But um one thing with Elliott and TikTok and podcasts is, because podcasts are such long form pieces of content, um usually they end up having some good juicy segments, like some little soundbite snippets. And so cutting those into shorts is kind of the essence of like social media for podcasts. It's not the only way to do social media for podcasts, but it's a most common way.
Yes.
Take the clips and the highlights, and when someone tells something funny or makes a good point, and all that. Um, but but yeah, so I'm trying to keep, the I try to mix in a little bit of humor, like especially for young people's humor, and a
Yes.
little bit of education in every episode I do. Most every episode.
So I
Sometimes
should
there's an exception.
so I should come up with a lot of dad jokes.
Yeah, I don't
I
know, but that's my formula for my
no,
thing,
I
and it
know.
may or may not work for you guys. I think you come up with if you were trying to the better question to ask perhaps if you say I'm trying to promote scouting, right? or
Yes.
or to whom,
To
right?
yeah, and my vision is mostly parents, scouters to bolster them in what they're doing because they're spending so much time. I mean, scouters, these guys that are and women who are
And when you say
scoutmasters,
scouters, you mean adults,
adult scout
volunteers?
leaders,
Okay.
and they put in so much time, and they need to be encouraged and patted on the back,
Yeah.
and also maybe inspired to come up with this idea or that idea. And that's one thing I thought tonight is that inspire the older scouts too, the senior patrol leader level, the patrol leaders to
Right.
to yeah, maybe you could do a social media thing for your, you're in the Philippines, or wherever you are,
Right.
Sweden or wherever you are, and you just inspire people. And then also I want to encourage parents who
Mm-hmm.
who are on the edge about their kids have all these available things to do, and the importance, I think, of having them in scouting because of the wide variety of skills and experiences that scouting gives that, for example, team sports can't quite give.
Mm-hmm.
And so those are my thoughts.
Well, I had an idea that came to mind when you
Yeah.
mentioned that because
Uh-huh.
um the age you're targeting matters a lot, right? Especially
Yes.
like we were talking about earlier. A 12-year-old mind is very different from 15 or 18, right? What
Yes.
they're focused on, what resonates with them. And so if you're aimed more towards the leadership level and the top of the troop, the experienced scouts and then scouters and scout
Yes.
professionals,
Hmm.
um, one thing that popped into my mind was one of the great values of scouting is the skills learned carry forward, right, into your later career, into your life, into your preparedness, your self-confidence, your speaking ability, your citizenship, right? And sure, you get good at soccer. It's great. You're healthy. You enjoy the game, but does it help you do your career job better? Maybe, maybe not. Does it? If you're not a pro or get a college scholarship, how much further does it carry you, right? And so, one thought would be, you interview people, or you do like essays on scout skills that translate and how do they translate, right? And you think about people's resumes, right? It's a big deal to have Eagle Scout on your resume. Why? Because it's like it matters in the job world. It matters when you're 25 and 30, right? And all of that. Exactly. And these things, so that could be like one aspect, like scouting skills for life, right? Or some kind
Yes.
of, that could be like a format for your TikTok, right? Or something. You could say,
Well,
here's a
when
60-year-old who learned this in scouts and's been applying it in his welding business, right, for the last 40 years, or
well,
grew a landscaping business because he started doing, with nature merit badge. I don't know.
You- Well, I no, that's great. Our original idea was to have
Mm-hmm.
a series of actual skills, like for
Yeah.
example, a life saving, where you
Mm-hmm.
go out and you do a life saving thing. And so now maybe the better thing, I've noticed there's some guy that has first aid, and he says, "Follow me if you want to live." Have you ever seen
Right.
that guy? And he
No,
has
but yeah.
really, I mean, that guy, he has some really important
Mm-hmm.
first aid skills that he's demonstrating on fake cuts and all that he sews up
Yeah.
or puts together. And so we don't need to duplicate that. But
Right.
it is a good idea to push the senior patrol leader, the 12 and 13-year-old, in the direction of that guy's programs,
Yep.
or that other one about life-saving skills. But a lot of this stuff, and I think parents and all leaders have to
Hmm.
remember that you can't just talk about it. You've got to
Right.
practice it. And that's one thing I like about hidden camping is
Hmm.
you're practicing it,
Right.
and
Right.
you're showing, I keep thinking, God, what if he gets out there on a island and he gets hurt?
Right.
What's my son gonna do out
Well,
there if
well,
he breaks his leg or something,
I sliced my thumb open, right, on one trip, and it
Hmm.
could have been way worse.
Mm.
And I was way far away. There was no bridge to that island. It was a boat ride in the dark to get back to people. And I got lucky that it was just on the tip of my thumb. And I did, even, and here's the funny thing, I left my first aid kit in the car because I was trying to pack the boat light and I had a bulky first aid kit. And so in hindsight, I learned I need like a little, you know, tic tac box first aid kit that can go in my chest pocket, right? I need a simple like sewing kit, little basics, but I used a glove and I, cut the pressure off and stop the bleeding on my thumb. But it was crazy. And so um to play on what you're talking about, the first aid and the life saving, right? Those are core
Core.
merit badges and
Yep.
skills, right? Like you really can't get anywhere in scouts until you've done first aid merit badge, right? First aid and swimming are kind of like the two most important first merit badges for all these. Most people who are listening already know this, but then you get through the Eagle Scout requirements, then the more like auxiliary
Mhm.
optional merit badges. One thing you guys could look at on TikTok or explore in various episodes, especially when you have a podcast with a scouter,
Yep.
Mhm.
you could examine clusters of merit badges that relate to a certain career, right?
Mhm.
Um, I have a real strong memory of a friend of mine, Cappy Poley, and Cappy, if you're watching this, love you, buddy. And his mother was normally not a merit badge counselor, but she became a merit badge counselor for a series of farm related merit badges, agribusiness,
Mhm.
um, livestock. I think we had one other like fish and wildlife management merit badge. But over the course of about 6 months or a year, he and I earned those three together with his mom as the architect. And
Mm.
she took us to a slaughterhouse. She
Wow.
took us to a livestock auction. She took us to, a grain business, and we got to tour the silo. Like it was very memorable, important things that like formulated my opinion on agriculture business
This
it
makes me
through
feel so good.
experience. What?
Yeah.
Marilyn was such a good person, and
Yeah,
for her to do that with
right.
y'all, and that
And she wasn't even really like involved with the troop much, but then that was her thing. Like her and her
yep,
husband raised
Mhm.
cattle.
yep,
Yeah.
So she said, I don't need my son to learn from someone else, like let's just
Yeah.
earn the merit badge together. And we did some of it out on his farm.
Well, see, that's one of the things about encouraging parents who don't understand
Mhm.
scouting yet. They're kind of on the border of it. I remember
Right.
when I was a Cub Scout,
Mm-hmm.
almost every month we had a adventure where
Yep.
we would go to, for example, a plant that made mustard,
Mm-hmm.
or we went to an automobile assembly plant out at Doraville. I
Yeah.
mean, how many kids have actually gone into an auto assembly plant? you
Right.
know,
Nice.
and you're not going to do that if you're on a soccer team
No, I went to
or a
Lockheed when I was young, for
did you?
the aviation merit badge, and we got to
Yeah.
see how some stages of how the planes are built, and it was exciting. It was exciting
Oh
to
yeah.
see that. Now, it made me know for sure that I did not want to be an airplane mechanic, and so I appreciate that. Because
Yeah.
did you know have you ever been to a place like to Lockheed or something like that?
Oh, we went to Huntsville to the Space
Yeah.
Center over there when he was a
Yeah.
Cub Scout.
So in the way that they have to organize their tools is each one of their toolboxes has a like section for each particular tool, and they have to sign it out and log each tool out as they use it, and then bring
Mm,
it back and log it back in. And so
yeah.
whenever a plane finally gets given to or purchased by whomever is going to use it, military or commercial or whatever,
Hmm.
they also get the tool check in and check out logs.
Wow.
I didn't know that, but
Oh
it,
yeah.
I was certain right then and there. I knew for sure that I was not gonna do that.
But also that knowing for certain is a
No,
value, right?
that
Yeah,
is a
that's
big
what I mean.
value.
That's
Yes.
what I mean. That's what I mean.
Yeah.
So even but the experience, it was still incredible to see
Right.
all that happen, and it gave me a hint at my career. And so
Right.
far, I've avoided mechanic. I'm a service writer, so I'm really close. But my
Right.
toolbox, you took it to Lockheed, they might get rid of me real quick.
Well,
Well, the interesting thing too is if they ever have one of those a crash,
Mhm,
and the National Transportation Board goes out, they look at all those logs, and
hmm.
they might find the mechanic who made
mhm,
the mistake that cost 300 lives.
mhm.
Yep.
I mean, and and the time and place that he made that mistake. I mean, it is, and then you have a lot of respect for all of them: the investigators, the mechanics, the organizers
I have
of
a
these companies. It's amazing.
Yeah.
one of our viewers on Instagram right now says that his older brother JD is an airplane tech now, does a trip similar to what I took. He
Right.
also says Scouts definitely gives you backstage access to things most people simply can't.
Yeah,
Right.
Yeah, and that's
One major piece of backstage access that a lot of scouts get is a closer look at the military, right? You get to go on submarines. You get, people get to tour them, but you really get to like sleep on an aircraft carrier when you're
did
young
that too.
sometimes, and
Yeah.
go to army bases and meet them. And I got to go.
you went to the Ranger camp.
Right. So, real quick, I want to get back to merit badges and how they lead into careers.
Mhm,
And I'll tell you about the Rangers later, which was an amazing backstage experience. Like, I got to do one of the phases basically of their training, and it was very intense. And they did not go easy on us scouts. They like pushed us all to the very edge. But um you think about like merit badge clusters, right? Two, three, four merit badges in a group, and they can also be computer science, they can be personal finance, they can be um collections merit badge, insect study, whatever it is. They don't have to be the core. They can be a little tangent way out on the merit badge tree, right? But what a interesting connection that you guys can make through the podcast, through the social media, is if you see a kid interested in this, which direction of merit badges can you steer them in, right? Or if you have a parent who is a professional in this industry or this industry or this industry, what might they be able to teach scouts, right? How can they reach down into scouting and pull people towards them into that career if that
mhm.
kid is interested, or test the interest of the members of the troop. Hey, are you interested in cybersecurity? Right? Are you interested in graphic design? Right? Because
Cinematography.
Well,
cinematography, right? It's
I
it's a
want to.
modern world.
It's a modern world, but I want to put in a plug for Camp Thunder.
Yeah.
Now they have, because of our friend Zane Lee
Mm-hmm.
and Brian Brian down there. They're metallurgy and
Yeah.
welding. And every now and then you'll have like an 11-year-old girl is the best welder in the whole class.
Oh
You
yeah.
know,
My son took metal work, over winter camp,
Mm-hmm.
just a week or 2 ago.
uh huh.
Brought home a pretty cool stove and, had written some words on it in weld, which was really cool, and a little blacksmith nail that he forged himself. It was really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Those are
that's
great.
all very new down there at Camp Thunder.
Yeah. And I mean, you could just think like, put it this way: they don't have a at least I don't think there's not like a HVAC merit badge, right? But if someone's father was an HVAC installer, and the son or the daughter thought, hey, maybe I'll maybe I'll do their business, maybe not. With some research between the three of us or you two, you could go look at the entire full list. Well, which one's woodwork, right? Metalwork, right? Electrical, engineering, right? I'm pretty sure there's one about like being an electrician,
Mhm.
um, circuitry or whatever the name of the merit badge is, those kind of things. So I just think there's an infinite application, as far as like, or I wouldn't say infinite application. I would say there's a window of opportunity for aides of scouting to explore the connections between scout skills and real life skills and bridging that gap. Because a lot of times, um, a misconception is that scouts are scouts and then there's everybody else who's not scouts, right? Or it's the same with police. I always, they say the thin blue line, right? And one thing I teach my kids is whenever we see police, we always go approach them. We always go talk to the sheriffs, to the deputies, to the police force members, and I learn their names. I save their names in my phone in case I need to name drop later if I get in trouble somewhere. Um, oh,
Yeah,
I
it's a
know
big
Tony, I
problem
know
with
Jack,
Zeb.
right? No, but it's very important to break down those walls that exist in the world between groups of people, right? And to dispel the levels of like fear and misunderstanding. I feel like, at least me personally, one of my like missions in life is to build bridges. I love studying foreign languages, and I consider that kind of like a road to that, right? Like to help uh, to get over misunderstandings between cultures and people, or to create better understanding. And so, between scouts and non-scouts, there's probably lots of ways, if you think of it like that, um, of tackling the misconceptions, um, or of building, like, connecting pieces.
Mhm.
But yeah,
Well,
any other
Brian,
thoughts about
the,
the YouTube or social media? What do y'all
No,
want to talk about?
we briefly spoke about it, the social media thing. Um, when do you have plans on I know you said that you've got the hidden camping name. Uh, do you have plans on using that anytime soon? And if so, how?
Yeah, that's the way I look at it is, I'm not against shorts, right?
Mhm,
Shorts are a part of life, right? We all understand that, like, most half the time, or let's say 2/3 of the time, when the three of us open our phone or even open YouTube, we're probably looking at shorts half or more of the time. And shorts are what you might call going wide, right? They allow more different new eyeballs to see you and your content, right? So it would, in theory, shorts increase discovery, right? Um, but there's also a drawback to shorts. First off, I feel like shorts um often are like much easier. People get into like a catatonic, like zombie state, and they're just scrolling. They don't really like dive into the content or retain it. They're entertained for a moment, even if it's educational. You might go say, hey, I heard such and such about, Venezuela or the oil reserves, or whatever, and you might retain certain pieces, but a lot of the shorts are lost in
mhm,
time. And so that's the doing all shorts. And I have a creator friend who's more focused on shorts, and he and I talk about this all the time. He's going wide, right? He's getting like lots of people to view his content, but his is very universal sports content. And I'm trying to go deep, right? So I really want to be a purist on long form content first for I would say a long time. By a long time, I mean 20 to 30 episodes, right?
mhm,
Because I'm building a deeper connection with my viewers. They have watched 5 of my episodes, 3 of my episodes, all nine,
mhm.
every minute of every one, and when I make a comment, hey, this is different from that time in the swamp, they know what I'm talking about, right? Because I didn't burn the food this time or whatever else it is. And so there's all those kind of little nuances that you can build depth with your audience in long form. And
Mhm,
so therefore, I'm preserving the handles for short form social media, because I don't want other people to get them. But
Well,
I'm not in a big rush to use them.
well, let me ask for some
Yeah.
advice then, because I have obviously ventured on into the TikTok and the
Hmm.
Facebook Reels, Instagram Reels. I'm not, and I don't have any intention. Maybe Walker does. Maybe we will in the future, but intentionally make short form content like that. Instead, just clipping up parts of the videos that we've
Yeah.
already made and then putting that out to try to drive audience towards the long form content. Would that
And
be something that you'd venture down when you cross the social media bridge?
yeah, I will. Um, and I definitely like even first off, I'm not trying to be too negative about shorts. And
No,
my
no,
format,
get it.
my little that's the thing about entertainment. My little recipe is different than what I think you guys should use. I definitely think shorts should be a part of your recipe because they mine are long form, but podcasts are real long form,
Mm,
right? They're like 40, 50, 60 minute long clips. So some ways they almost need to be segmented, right? Because they're so long.
mhm.
Um, and then it helps people understand why they should watch an episode or what they can gain out of it without having to, you know, um, give you the hope and faith and to watch it from the
Well,
beginning.
well, well, that's one reason why I like the Spotify aspect of what we're doing, because
Mm-hmm.
then you're driving in your car to work and
Yep.
you
Yep.
can listen to it, and then you can pick it up on your way home, the
Mhm.
part you haven't
Mm-hmm.
heard. Because I never watch a full podcast on YouTube.
Visually, yeah.
Yeah, because I don't have time. And
Right.
but boy, driving in your car, it just changes the whole experience into a learning experience. And that's one
Absolutely.
thing I'm hoping that, and that's one thing I'm very happy with Elliott has gotten us over into the
Mhm.
Spotify world because of that fact.
Absolutely.
Yep.
Yeah, we're available now on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. And now we're dipping our toes into the live world, so we'll see how that plays out. Now, as far as people listening or watching or whatever, hopefully that your commute was 1 hour and 1 minute and 10 seconds long. Hopefully it is, and if it
Yep.
is,
Well,
to say thank you for joining.
yeah, no. I would say
I could keep on going. We could keep on going all night with
I
this.
know.
right, right.
But
I would
Zeb,
say we
I'm
go
so
another
glad.
minute or two because I
I'm.
would I would like to plug my channel
I'd
Yes,
like
and
for you
yes.
to.
and I would like, to give you guys props and I don't want to just, say that, whatever. Um add some adjective there that means insincere. I mean that sincerely. Like the way you're doing it's great. What you're doing is great. Even this podcast with you guys, I've learned more about the mission, right? What and we're cracking it open a little more, like how to accomplish the mission, right? And if you set out to solve something simple, right? Then then there's only so much you can do. You solve it and then whatever. And then also if you solve a harder problem, that's and the level of importance, you guys have picked a significant problem that has a value to a lot of people. And a lot of the value that scouters, scout leaders can gain from like just regularly tuning in to y'all's podcast, it's um it's a gentle but yet um deep echoing effect of skills and knowledge gained, right? Even if it's just them getting more confident to talk about different aspects of scouting, even if it's them just feeling more comfortable in the scouting world, or feeling more comfortable, confident that their career in scouting are interrelated, right?
Mhm.
Or they better understand their child, right? And what he's actually doing in scouts by listening to aids to scouting, right? And can kind of be like have more connection. I think that connection that you're talking about is very valuable to young lives, to young people, and it needs to be appreciated. Not just after the fact, but you're in there doing it right now. And I want to encourage you to real quick, because a lot of times the results don't come right away. There,
Mhm.
you feel like you're spinning your wheels. You feel like you're experimenting, and what's actually sticking, you don't even know. But a lot of times when you're investing in a solving a problem like this, the solution will come to you years later,
Mhm.
right? The real um, gold poured into your heart, like that, let you know you're doing the right thing, comes when you meet a 25-year-old or a 30-year-old who's like, I became an assistant scoutmaster because of you guys. My younger brother was in it, and I was kind of like, I don't want to be in the scouts, right? And then I started actually realizing, the doors it can open and the connections between where I actually want to go and it and all that. And I realized it could build my resume and I could learn things, even though I'm an adult now. Those kind of rewards may come way down the line, is what I want to say to you guys. And so I just want to keep y'all both encouraged to keep going, keep finding cool people to have on, um, and sharing the scouting gospel with the world. It's a great project. And it's
Well,
a
you
great
can't you
podcast.
can't enjoy the view of their fifth-story house until you let that foundation dry first. So that's
Right.
what we're doing. We're still pouring and piping and building framework.
Yep.
But you,
Absolutely.
Zeb, before we sign off, and I know we've gone a long time, and I know you two got to get up in the morning and do your thing. But do you want to do any more plugging about hidden camping and where people can find it, and how and what you
Well, there's one point I want to make about shorts and longs, and
okay,
then I'll plug my
okay,
if y'all are okay with that. And the
we're
point I want to
fine
make,
with it. Yes.
yeah, the point I want to make is shorts are most valuable when they do aim a person towards something, right? When they don't have to always like contain a link at the bottom, but to me, a short should say, "Hey, if you like this, follow this, or go look at this." It should have like a call to action to
Right.
go do something else. Because when people are on shorts and doom scrolling,
Mhm.
they're basically watching the internet at like 65 miles an hour, right? And then when they go click on a long form video, or they listen to a podcast in the car, or they watch one
Speed
of my
bumps.
videos, they're watching it at 25 or 30 miles an hour. And people don't like to downshift from 65 to 35 right away. So it's very important in shorts that you don't lose the mission of planting the right seeds, so that when they come back later, and in a more thoughtful state, they go to maybe consider yours more, right? That's important, I would say, about that idea. And so it's like, if you're playing at 65 miles per hour, don't just get in there and play
Yeah.
just because, oh, I got thousands of views, right?
Yeah.
Thousands of 5-second views don't add up to much at the end of the
True.
day. The 20-minute views are worth more, right? It's
Yeah.
just, and 50 sounds really humble, and 5,000 sounds really sexy, but it's just apples and oranges, and not everybody really puts that in their head before they start, because they often get down a rabbit hole and say, "Oh, I'm having
Right.
success this way," right?
Yeah, view count and time watched is that's a whole different ball game. You're right.
Right, right.
This is this
And
the type of content we're trying to push is not necessarily digestible through Vine or TikTok.
Yeah.
right, right, exactly. And so, some is important, especially with what y'all are doing. But I'm just thinking about, other creators out there. Like, don't get too
Mhm.
caught up in that rabbit hole, is what I would say, right?
Right.
Unless you have a strategy for it. And it's just more volatile. It's like playing in a different part of the ocean, right? And I'm trying to be in the calm but yet deep water, or whatever it is, or the clear, lagoon, and other people are playing in the surf, and you catch a wave, but you also crash, and all that. But
Yeah.
um not to digress too long into that, I've just had so many people say, "Oh, you should clip, you should make shorts," more people will discover your channel. And that might be
Yes.
true, but a lot of, like, I won't say studies, but a lot of YouTube experts will say that shorts can cannibalize your long form content, not in podcasts. So I'm not really
No,
talking to you guys. I'm just talking
no,
in general.
in that style of video, like Outdoor Boys doesn't do it, but other creators grab their content and clip it up like that, and it
Right.
doesn't even sometimes doesn't even make sense. You
Right.
jump into the middle of something and it's not you don't understand the whole thing. So,
Well,
Right.
it's everything.
I sort of think that what I think that in terms of the shorts can drive people to the podcasts
Yep.
on the radio, on the Apple podcasts and
Yes.
others,
Mhm.
so
Yeah.
they can listen to the hour.
Yes.
Definitely.
And because
Definitely.
I mean, I think that and you tonight, y'all done an excellent job, and I wish that millions of people could hear exactly what y'all have said,
Hmm.
and especially see the my goal is I think about all the millions of children who need scouting and
Right.
aren't getting it. And so, in a sense, the long term goal is to have a much higher percentage of children in this country and all over the world be in scouting.
At
Right.
the very
That
least,
is
be
the goal.
exposed to the idea at
Oh,
a
I
very
want them to
young
be in scouting.
No,
Yeah,
And
well, to get them there, you have to,
that's right.
and
gotta
then
show them a commercial. They won't never know about the toy unless they've seen the commercial first.
Yep.
and it's okay that we're going long because it actually everything we're talking about has unlocked another thought in my brain that I think is important because we talked about meeting people where they are, careers and connections outside of scouting and inside of scouting, right? Well, one of the most mentioned career aspirations of like middle schoolers is I want to be a YouTuber. I want to be
Mhm,
a social media creator, right? And so what I would like to tell to those young people, the few who are listening or the parents who have those kids who say I want to be a YouTuber, you know, I meet young kids right now who say, "Oh, da, 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 I want to put videos on YouTube." Well, there's thousands upon hundreds of thousands of millions of people like screen recording video games and
mhm,
doing kind of like normal boring stuff and putting it online.
mhm,
um Scouting is a skill set that makes you so interesting you then have content to go produce.
mhm.
So it's meeting, if you want to be a content creator, scouting is actually really good for you, because it teaches you skills that you can teach people, that you can demonstrate. It lets you go further into the woods than other people confidently. One of the things I told I'm kind of like the de facto scoutmaster at my kids school, and we go camping, and I tell the kids, I say, listen, like, I am stricter than the other parents, but I also offer more adventure. Because here's why. If I can't trust you to press the brake on the golf cart, when I say to, then how can I trust you on a cliff with a rope? Right? You got to prove to me that you can grasp safety and teamwork and not giving up on small increments, and I'm going to hold you to a high standard if you want me to go give you big opportunities, right? And so I want to just encourage all those young people who want to be a creator that scouting is good for you because it gives you these skills, right? It teaches you things. It makes you a stronger person in, mind, body, and spirit. It teaches you speaking skills, leadership skills, diplomacy, writing, you name it. Not to mention woodcraft, safety, emergency
Camping.
preparedness, all that. So that's kind of the like. It almost took us 60 minutes to get full circle and connect this idea of YouTube and why I'm doing this and scouting. But I would say that would be the example I want to end the podcast on from my perspective, that they do have a strong overlay.
Mhm.
um it's not always clear right away, but it could be up to you guys, you parents. Your kid wants to be a creator but they're in their room playing video games all day. Well, maybe you need to go tell your son, hey, you want to make real good content, let's go camp. You know what I mean? Let's go on a hike, let's go hike 20 miles in a day, and
Let's start a fire.
time lapse it, right?
Let's start a fire.
Right. Let's go have a bonfire in the backyard.
Mhm.
That's going to get more views. If you want to
But the
be a
challenge
creator, let's
is
go do cool stuff.
yeah,
Right?
Yeah, the
Am I wrong? It's just
next challenge video is you have to go whoever starts the biggest bonfire, no matches, no lighter, and no ferro rod.
right.
Yeah.
I have some crazy ideas like that. I don't want to
No,
share
don't tell
all my
every
ideas for all my videos, but yeah, it'd be really fun to
Play stop, drop, and roll.
right. My buddy, he had this. I was about to mention it earlier. He had this idea. He said, you make a video series called Time Out, right? And you put yourself in an emergency situation, but you have like one of those lit necklaces, like an old person. I've fallen and I can't get up, right? An emergency button.
Mhm,
So it's like an airplane crashed in the woods or stranded in a life raft, like just a buoy, out in the ocean. And
mhm.
how long? There's a timer running. How long till you have to press it, right? It would be fun. Like he's like, maybe you do survive and you live on an island and eat coconuts and you never have to press it. And he's like, but maybe it's 15 minutes, freezing or whatever. I thought that was an interesting idea, but we could
Yeah.
go on about ideas all day. The real trick is executing them, putting them out there, putting in the work, putting in the editing. Big props to you guys on doing all that part.
Well,
And
as another idea, uh, let's go ahead and plan for after we each get a few more episodes out there, let's revisit and see the strategies that we've both used.
yeah, yeah,
That's right. And also, I thought what we could do is, insofar as it would work within the framework of people just listening on Spotify and
hmm,
Apple Podcasts, is we could have clips from Zeb's hidden camping,
yeah,
Okay.
just where he's, it's kind of, saying, "Oh, the geese are all around me," and,
Mhm.
or
yeah.
he,
There's some fun ones, and
yeah,
I try to teach a lot of scouting skills. Whether it's
Yes, you do.
how to like I try to use a flint and steel in a
Yes.
lot of my fires. I use billows and
Yeah.
what's wet wood, what makes smoke, how do you catch an ember,
You
you
went through
know,
the whole tinder kindling and fuel process. I saw you. I
right?
picked up on every little thing. I was like, "Oh, yeah,
There's
I had
there's
no
a
way to
lot
learn
of
that."
scouting in it. And I never mention the word scouts.
No, you don't.
Occasionally I've said I'm an Eagle Scout. Hey,
Mhm, yeah,
I taught wilderness survival. Occasionally, and a few friends have said, lean into that to qualify yourself. Why should people listen to you? Well, you have experience. And I said,
yeah.
and there will be plenty of opportunities in the future. But
Well,
yeah,
it speaks for itself too, just the actions of what you're doing. I mean, that's qualifying enough.
right, right. But if anybody wants, it's just, it's a small YouTube channel at present, a couple hundred subscribers, 9 or 10 videos. And It's called Hidden Camping with Zeb Chandler. That's what you need to type into the search. And I think it's
Links down
YouTube
below.
slash at hidden camping. Might be a dash. I can't remember. But just Hidden Camping with Zeb Chandler is how you'd find it. And leave a comment about where you think I should go, or if you came across my video from this podcast. I'd love to know if that's how people get to it. But I appreciate you guys having me for real, for real. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
thank you so
Links
much.
to links to
Yeah.
Zeb's, videos will be right down below in the description wherever you're listening.
Yep. Stay
Thanks,
strong,
everybody. Thanks for
scouters, and thank you all you volunteers and parents too. You've been making the mission,
Yes,
doing the groundwork, and it's very important.
very important.
Yeah.
All right. Good night, everybody.
Okay. All right.
Good
Thank
night.
you.
Goodbye.
Goodbye.